Hey everyone, this is the mildly infamous Brett Bertolucci, owner of the Whip Radio, WHIP, streaming in Second Life and over the World Wide Whip. And we now offer you the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. That's right, you can tune in at www.gorianwhip.com and hear the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley on the Whip.
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Joe Yardley in 1920s Berlin. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
I'm aware that I'm late with my rent for the attic in Berlin, but I will pay as soon as we have this show in the can. Oscar Edenbaum told me I'm going to be evicted.
It's very cold out there. You'll freeze to death, and we won't have anywhere to record this radio show anymore.
You heard in the station ID Brett Bertolucci, who operates Gorian Whip Radio at GorianWhip.com, and we're proud to be featured on his stream every Friday and Saturday at 3 a.m. What?
Well, that's noon in Europe. That's a lovely time to listen to the radio.
I was just going to complain about what kind of prime time is that? What kind of deal is that? At 3 a.m.? That's where you put people who have some sort of marginal avant-garde music program that nobody wants to listen to.
Well, that's us, isn't it?
Anyway, Brett Bertolucci, thanks for having us on, and we're really thrilled about this partnership at GorianWhip.com, I'm sorry. On the show today, we have a special guest later on, writer Beau Hindman, a journalist in the tech blogosphere and an author in his own right. He wrote for Massively.com. He followed the development of Second Life since 2004. And he saw the ups and downs, and he saw the slight ups again. And his first sci-fi novel is Anna the Powerful. We'll link to that as well. Beau Hindman coming later in the show. Looking forward to another contextual debate on where Linden Lab is standing right now in this era of VR resurgence, right, Joe?
Yeah.
A little bit of history is in order.
I love history.
You can always get in touch with us any which way. Ping the show's avatar Drax Files, send us news scoops, press releases, call us on Skype, leave a voicemail, or email us at radio@draxfiles.com. You can become a sponsor. You can have your banner displayed on the website. You can support us on an individual basis by taking out a voluntary subscription of only $100 Linden per month. That's $25 Linden per show. Send us a message and we'll send you the subscription device.
It's a really cool vintage microphone.
So
it's really, really lovely.
It's hand-modeled by Chris Lehman with his virtual hands. And he modeled that in SL with his virtual hands, not with his real hands using a Leap Motion. And I still got 2 Leap Motions sitting in the shelf. And I try to get rid of them. I try to clear inventory here. I'm sounding like a carpet salesman. Every carpet has to go. Every Leap Motion has to go. We have 2 Leap Motions. You want it? Send us a message why you want it, and I'll give it to you. Matter of fact, there's a whole bunch of really cool Leap Motion demos floating around that are programmed in WebGL, and Tony Parisi, the creator of virtual reality markup language, who was on the show, is coming back on the show to explain what he's currently doing with a virtual reality scripting language called Glam that he's working on, and which will be usable on the web via the Firefox browser. It's actually usable right now. You can program stuff in the Firefox browser. You can put an Oculus on, you can put a Leap Motion in front of it, and you can interact with the web as your metaverse.
If you've got an Oculus Rift or another VR headset, these Leap Motions are extra cool because you can stick them on.
Let's go straight into news. The Game Developer Conference, as we go to air, is wrapping up. The Game Developer Conference in San Francisco is huge. I've never been there, but it's apparently about 25,000 visitors. Linden Lab did not exhibit there, but I heard through various grapevines that a lot of Lindens privately roamed the halls, and kind of were probably kind of sneering at some of the stuff and probably thinking, so much head-mounted displayage and so little compelling content.
Why wasn't Linden Lab there? Might have been interesting to put a table with a nice little big screen. Showing these people what Second Life can look like these days.
I think that's really the eternal question of when do you go out, and do you go out in this venue? I mean, it's still that question, where does the virtual world segment fit into this larger game segment? I think High Fidelity didn't exhibit there either, you know.
But I still think that simply by showing a lot of these people will know Second Life, and a lot of these people will think that Second Life looks the same like it did in 2007. And simply reminding people that you're still around and that you've been improving. You know, no matter what you say, Second Life still is the biggest sandbox for VR and interesting for everyone who uses headsets, even if most of them don't know it yet.
To be quite honest, when you pop on an Oculus, though, and I tried at Linden Lab, I tried the DevKit 2 as well, it is essential that you're in a controlled environment. I know they could have done that, because if you venture out and if you have an experience of even just 20 seconds of not consistent frame rates and you don't know what SL has to offer, you're bumping into that same issue where you go like, what the hell, what kind of crappy game is that? It's not even sort of working with the head-mounted display de jour. This is an interesting conundrum. I would love to have someone from Linden Lab Marketing on and kind of discuss that at some point. But you know, we're also getting closer to SL2, and I think they made the internal decision to when that comes online, they kind of really push big time.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Either way, we had for today's scheduled Carl Kranz, who is the organizer of the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup. He was on the ground at the Game Developers Conference, and he was going to fill us in with all the juicy details. But he was so busy, so I'm going to tape that interview hopefully tomorrow or over the weekend. We have it next week with in-depth details of all the new stuff that came out at the Game Developer Conference. We're going to touch upon some of this stuff today. Carl put together a VR mixer with allegedly, he told me yesterday, 1,000 people RSVPing.
Wow.
I didn't mean to say earlier, by the way, that the Lindens who were roaming the GDC halls were sneering at the content. That's primarily the voice in my head that is imagining that they would run around like, oh, look at the kids with their toys.
All right then. Anyway,
if I were to summarize GDC, is that, you know, the head-mounted display wars are heating up with GameFace Labs. GameFace Labs is a major player in my estimation. We'll talk to Carl about it. It has a computer inside the headset. Hence, they call it now a head-mounted console because it has all the computing power with a chip from NVIDIA. Another headset, let's run through them real quick, is the open source VR, the OS VR headset. It's open source in hardware. You can download files to 3D print your own. And Joe, you saw this, the HTC Vive headset came out.
There are so many.
That is big. So HTC and Valve have collaborated to bring out a headset, and the development kit is shipping in a month or so. They have a dual hand controller, which I haven't seen. I hope Carl has tried it. We'll talk about it next week. The HTC Vive headset can detect where you are in the room with lights that censor exactly where you are, your positioning relative to the content.
Amazing. There's so much. It's almost like, you know, you can't see the wood for the trees because the headsets are popping up left, right, and center. And Oculus is suspiciously quiet. If they were not in bed with Facebook and, you know, spending trillions and billions on it, I would have given up on them by now. So it is still impossible to tell who is going to win this game. Who knows? In a year, we may be everyone in the world may be using a headset that hasn't even been invented yet at the moment of us recording this. It can go anywhere. It is VHS and Betacam all over again.
That's right. And I also think that, you know, all these goggles, they're still kind of, you know, big ski goggly looking like, and it's been expressed many times over that, you know, this is possibly something that the sort of the mainstream public wouldn't pop on at home to experience the content. So I think that's a kind of a social norm that still has to kind of evolve. Will I wear this outside of the basement that I dwell in?
Who goes virtual realitying outside their basement? I don't get it because I would not go on my computer while there's anyone near me ever at all. You know, even without a virtual reality headset, computing to me is like what, you know, watching television is to most people. You do it in your comfortable clothes, hanging upside down on your couch, with crisps and a bottle of Coke and something to smoke, and chaos everywhere. It's not something you do while you're having visitors and you're wearing your best clothes. So who cares what you look like when you do any of this?
Yeah, but then that's an open question. And how big is actually the market? Will people have it sort of at home, like everybody has a television except for me?
Yes.
Will people just have it at home?
I want to bet with you that within a decade, a virtual reality device, whatever it's going to be, is going to be more common in households than a television.
All right. So we speculate about this all the time. Let's pick it up with Carl next week. He has seen all these devices. We also must not forget, by the way, the Sony Morpheus, which is also in the news. It's also a contender. And our friend Loki Elliott, I had a conversation on Twitter, and he alerted me to a post on appleinsider.com where Apple is looking for hardware and software engineers to build virtual reality displays. Maybe just like with the iPhone, everybody's sort of tinkering in their garage, and then Apple comes in and everybody's pretty much gone.
Because Apple has that pesky little habit of coming out of nowhere with a new gadget that then suddenly within 10 minutes everyone in the entire world has. Because like Facebook, they are the only two companies at this moment, or maybe Sony as well, slightly smaller, that are in the position to actually invest millions and millions of dollars into developing this stuff.
Before I forget, the HTC Valve collaboration that resulted in the HTC Vive headset, there's an article on the Telegraph, and I think, we slightly ridicule the mainstream media almost on a weekly basis, but why not? It's fun. The Telegraph in the UK, and I'm quoting from the article, HTC's vision for the headset extends beyond gaming, incorporating shopping, traveling, and even speaking with friends.
They have no idea, do they?
Now, this is in the category of the mainstream press, for some reason, not being able to fully grasp the concept of virtual reality, and they have a hard time formulating what it is, and I simply don't know why. Anyway, let's move on beyond headsets, because we're talking about content. Content creation also got a huge boost, if you will, or an opening up of it during the Game Developers Conference, when it was announced that the Unreal 4 engine, which was previously about $19 per month. So the Unreal Engine is a game developer engine. A lot of games are made with it. It's from Epic Games. Is now going to be free. And if you make a product that makes over $3,000 per quarter, you have to give Epic Games 5%. So it's a revenue share model, but it's essentially free for the tinkerer and for the hobbyist. On the heels of this announcement, again, Valve, who has a thing called Source, it's also a game developer engine. Source 2 is now also free to content developers. And Unity 3D, as some say, the biggest competitor to Second Life for creating 3D content, is also going to be royalty free in its personal edition. Now, the immediate thought here is, Joe, is Second Life dead? What does Second Life have to offer if all these highly sophisticated game engines that can produce all this realism that you always talk about, Joe? You're the gamer on this program. What does Second Life have to offer? Why don't they just close down their office and go on a permanent vacation? All these Lindens.
Yeah, let's do that. Bye.
Wait, Ebbe is calling. Ebbe is on the phone. He says, "Hey, I have more time than I anticipated. You want to go to Sweden with me?"
In your dreams. He's calling me because he wants to play more computer games. No, Second Life has got a few things going for it. It is still the biggest and nicest looking virtual reality sandbox that's online, that's accessible worldwide by anyone at any time. And that's what makes it unique. And it also has this experience of what is it, 11, 12 years? And it has this economy, and it has things that have been made by users that are, years old. So it has this massive resource that nobody else has.
Sorry to interject. I know for you, Joe, old things are an asset. For most people, unfortunately, in the modern world, they are just a burden and sort of a chain on your ankle.
Yeah, no, in Second Life, it's not nice that we have old things, especially if it looks old, because God knows we've got a few crappy Sims there. But what I meant is we have lots of it. We have, it is like when you start a museum, it's nice if there are already 100 paintings in it, even if you don't like them. Everyone is starting museums, but nobody's got any art yet. So, Second Life is still leagues ahead of everyone else, except when it comes to the technical bit. So if they manage to sort that out with Second Life to make it look as good as some of the more recent computer games.
Well, let's be specific. We're talking about the render engine. So when you say the technical bit they haven't figured out, we're talking about the render engine, which obviously they are aware of. And for Second Life 2.0, it will be it has to be on par with all these other game engines out there. Absolutely.
Then again, Second Life does look a lot better than a lot of people seem to assume. It can look pretty damn good already.
And as you said, they have an economy, and they have people, and they have art in their museums. The question still is, though, and that's the same that applies to high fidelity in that concept. Does anybody really want a continuous metaverse, or are people just fine with separate gaming events and products? Is there a need, is the question here, for something that is sort of uniting in the metaverse sense? I mean, we go back to that question on a weekly basis, but I think it's an important one when you're sort of projecting what your product will be, how your product will be sort of greeted at the door.
The secret is in virtual reality and in gaming is that a lot of people are actually creative, even the ones who play games that you think are stupid that I love. Running around, shooting, massacring, all those.
It's the end of all culture.
Have you played 24 the game yet?
They haven't? Can I be Jack Bauer? Oh, well, that's it. I mean, now we're talking cool.
I knew it. But what I was trying to say is that there is a lot of creativity. The outside world doesn't always see it, but just like people using regular games for machinima, there are also a lot of people who are tinkering with games, making their own maps, changing them, because they want to play the game, but they want to play it a little differently.
Yeah.
So, people want the freedom to be creative, and Second Life is, of course, the ultimate free sandbox.
No, the Unreal Engine is, and Source 2 is, and Unity is, and all these engines are the ultimate sandboxes, because then I can also deploy them, and they will run on all the Oculuses of the world and all the HTC Valves of the world. That's why I'm not. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why would I engage with something like Second Life?
Because then you can share it right away with other people. You can be in the same place. You can try it out, and you can go and visit other people. It is a little bit like a marketplace. If Unreal somehow created this massive online open world where people could visit each other's creations, then we have a problem. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, you build this thing for yourself, and then you can have other people download it. But can you share it? Can you walk around it together? Can you have someone else play with it or change it?
You can share it in the Unreal Engine marketplace, but I know what you're saying. We're talking about a persistent universe that is there, and I can hop and teleport within the world without having to close one game and go to the other. I'm in the world. The question, though, remains, is that really something that people want, or are they not finding, I'll go to the Unreal marketplace, or I'll go to Steam, and I'm just going to get the new game when I'm bored of the other one?
I think it is what they want.
And I'll stay in touch with my friends on Skype.
Have you heard of a game called DayZ?
Yeah, people talk about it all. I have never played it. It looks impressive, yeah?
It is originally not a game. It is a guy who took a war game and changed it into a zombie game, and then it became its own game, and it became a big bestseller. So, there is a lot of creativity. We're not always seeing it, but I think that if people realize that all the options and possibilities in Second Life and how easy it is, because figuring out the Unreal Engine and building with it and creating with it, that's not something that anyone can do just like that. But Second Life, I think, is as complicated as it is. It's still a lot easier.
That I have to agree with, and you're making this argument that I always make, that still with a lot of hurdles removed, if you will, with these engines and with the availability of VR, with the Google Cardboard viewer, for instance, and popping a cell phone in there. And earlier we talked about virtual reality on the web and stuff like that. Second Life still has the ability to enable amateurs to get started right away. I absolutely agree with you.
And if Second Life 2 does it well, they can become the missing link.
Okay, we got to move on because we're going to talk about similar things here with Beau Hindman, maybe get a different perspective. I have to mention this, and we'll link to everything on our blog, obviously, also all the announcement videos from all these various engines, but you sent me this converge.co, which is a virtual world for the Oculus where little heads are bouncing around. I mean,
what is this?
There's like heads floating in a room. You can download it, and then you have your virtual world with floating heads, but it works with the Oculus. Isn't that amazing? I mean, come on.
There's a lot wrong with Second Life, but it looks about a zillion times better than this.
There's a lot of things wrong with Second Life, but we have arms, legs, and torsos.
We have trees, we have landscapes, we have buildings. We have... what are we looking at? Is this Minecraft 1984?
I don't know what the purpose is of this. You can evaluate yourself. Look it up on our blog, and you can download it. You can download it, and you can play around. You can hop in, and then you have little heads floating, and you have a virtual world right there. All right. Anyways, if you're bored of your Second Life full-bodied avatar, you can be a floating head in converge.co with your Oculus.
It is quite weird. There are a few other videos out there, and it is just little floating heads in a forest hanging out together.
But but again, this is another phenomenon where a lot of people, even in the game developers and the new VR crowd that I have met personally at some of these conferences, very young in their 20s, SL slipped by their radar. And it was interesting. I talked to a guy here at the local grocery store, and I showed him some of the videos, and he was totally fascinated by Second Life. And he told me, how come I missed all this? And then he goes, yeah, I was in college. I was so kind of down, underwater with trying to finish college that I completely didn't have anything that happened in popular culture or even in the news sort of on my radar. And so you have a generation of people, they just totally missed everything. They missed the hype. They missed the backlash.
Because suddenly it comes with Oculus Rift, it's interesting and new. They forget everything that's happened before, ignore it as if it never happened, and they say, oh, look, I can do this with my headset.
We live in a culture that rewards the ever new. That's part of capitalism, the current state that I find problematic, but... you can listen to my politically themed weekly podcast, Drax Files Ranting Marxist Hour with Draxter. It's available on Stitcher.
All on its own.
A full hour, just ranting, nonstop.
Yeah. No co-host, no listeners.
Nothing.
Just Drax.
Exactly. Not even an open blog to comment.
Yeah. Good idea.
All right, before we go to Beau Hindman, our special guest, new feature of the show, musical interlude. Today's music is from Gemini Enfield. He's a DJ in World. He's so many other things, but Gemini Enfield is at the Vortex in Second Life. The Vortex, of course, by the way, 9th anniversary, the oldest live DJ club in Second Life. And Gemini is making music under his project named City Rat, and this is a tune called The Future Is Now.
Oh, hear me, you scurrilous infidels. You have profaned our secret temple, entered the forbidden shrine, and thus you will die.
The moment that I had feared is here. It's here.
possible with faith and prayer, including miracles. Miracles.
We've got to do something before it's too late.
Mayday, 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 9815 Lima. I'm in trouble. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
November 9815 Lima, Fort Dodge, go ahead.
I have no idea where I'm going. I'm going to crash. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
9815, let me say last known position.
I have no idea. Mayday, mayday, mayday. I'm going to crash.
9815, let me say altitude.
Rolling. I'm rolling. Oh my God. Help! Help!
So that was City Red, which is Gemini Enfield's project with a tune called The Future Is Now. Now on to our special guest, Beau Hindman. Beau Hindman is a freelance writer and developer living in Austin, Texas with his wife and his cats and dogs. I don't know, we'll talk about that. His wife is a game developer, and Beau Hindman is a writer, as I said at the top of the hour, longtime observer of Second Life and also a novelist. His novel is a kind of sci-fi novel about a girl who has superpowers, but not the ones that you think, and it's called Anna the Powerful. You can buy it in virtual stores. I don't know if you can buy it in Second Life. Beau Hindman, thanks for being on the show. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's about time.
It is really about time, and if you have nothing to do like us, then you can be on every week.
Okay, fine.
See, this is how easy we get people on this show.
That's cool.
People with no lives, only second lives. Beau, I want to start right off the bat because we talk about this almost on a weekly basis, somehow in there. Where do you think Second Life stands right now, or Linden Lab for that matter, as the makers of Second Life? Where do they stand in this new virtual reality resurgence where there's all of a sudden so much interest again because of all these head-mounted displays? Does Linden Lab stand a chance to be a big player in the future, or are they forever going to be the niche?
I think they've survived this long off of being the niche, so I think they'll probably continue to do that. There's always going to be that backbone of that. But the VR stuff is, I follow it a lot. I've been a critic of it, not because I think it should or will fail or anything like that, but I think that it still has some ways to go. You know, you still have to get it more. I think we'll probably see more wraparound display technology before we'd see goggle-mounted technology. But I think if there's one company that's primed to kind of do something with it, it would be Second Life, because it's already set up with that adaptable set of tools. So a person could get an Oculus or type of device, and if it didn't look right, they could literally just get in the world and tweak it until it looked right. It's one of those few tools. Actually, it's pretty much the only world, I learned not to call it a game years ago, world creation tool that offers you that. There's others like Minecraft and stuff where you can craft, but Second Life, you can literally warp objects, you could shape them, you could change the textures, so you could fit. Similar to how you'll go to somebody's place in Second Life and they have like shadows that they crafted just to look a certain way to create like a optical illusion or something. Same kind of deal. I think that all that needs to happen now is the technology just needs to get smaller and smaller, or people play with it.
Yeah, and I also think that the content is sorely needed when we're talking about all the head-mounted displays. And sure, they have some nifty demos, but there is really no world product. They have expertise in making it. But the question that arose earlier today already is, and what do you think, Beau, is there really a hunger out there for that kind of stuff? I mean, in a world where you have unlimited entertainment options, you can download any number of games, individual things, isolated things, and some of them are very cool. And when you're bored, you go on to the next thing. And Second Life is sort of this huge thing where you can do anything. Do people even want to do that?
Again, I think it's pulling the same crowd it's pulled for a while. People who are interested in doing that will find it. But I think one of the big problems Second Life might have is a public image issue where people tend to think it's just, sex, drugs, and rock and roll in Second Life. There's so much art and everything. I've talked about this in articles over the years. I know that the company has got to be making most of its money from people who are logging into, do certain activities, maybe dress up or whatever.
Barbie and Ken.
Yeah, and they're also doing stuff together, with Barbie and Ken, and Barbie and Ken and Ken.
Oh,
yes, that's what I heard. But if you're like me, I think that's fine. If you want to do that you're an adult, go for it. But I don't want it to wash over all the art stuff like what you do, Drax, just all the incredible stuff that's in there. So I think to really attract the people who are going to want to use it for more than that, you're going to have to put out there, people are going to have to put out there this image of Second Life as an art tool, as a world builder, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Photoshop in 3D. Do you really think, though, that this is where I'm conflicted? I don't know, because I bump into people here in town often that have never heard of Second Life. They don't have a concept. They're not, in their head are no flying penises whatsoever. So do you really think that this is so across the board that people have that image and that reputation is so persistent? Politicians do all sorts of things, and then the next election cycle, people seem to have forgotten that.
I think you have to be careful about this, at least for me, the biggest lesson I've learned through the internet, I should say, and through living in virtual worlds, is to never try to avoid generalizing like what I think people are doing. Like, for example, right now, people are upset about like Gamergate and stuff like that, right? And one of the things that upset me and my wife about it, not to get into the politics of it, was that there are lots and lots and lots of very strong, powerful, capable women in gaming, for example, and that was kind of washed over with this, oh my gosh, this pack of people are acting like jerks, which they were. So I have learned to kind of always remember that there's always another side to it. With Second Life, I think the most pervasive, if that's even the correct word, I don't know, the most constant thing you'll hear about it is the use of Second Life for some kind of freaky sex people thing, and that's what most people that I run into will say, oh, that's that. I've heard about that. That's where people go in there to cyber sex or whatever, if they even call it that anymore.
Since I have a journalist on, I need to interject here right away. How much is your ilk responsible for perpetuating that? How much can they do, or are they just picking up what the people think anyway? I mean, in my mind, they could write about other stuff, but it's just so tempting to write about that stuff, right?
Well, the first thing is that most games journalists, or whatever you want to call them, are not journalists at all. They don't have a degree in it. They're hobbyists that make a little money at writing about video games. So, of course, their opinions are going to be there. And, of course, they're going to listen to editors who say, look, we got a lot of hits when you put the word booby in the title. That happens. Me, personally, I have always made it a point to write about the strange or the unusual or the indie games or the games that don't, or the parts of, like, for example, Second Life, the art parts and stuff like that. Yes, journalism or writing games journalism, games coverage is responsible for that. But I also see fan-made films or at least it appears to be like interview type of films. There's been 3 or 4 that cover a lot of that.
That's true. For every good machinima, there is 2 trolling videos where people just go in world and...
Or 12.
Well, and to be fair, there is a lot of that typical stereotypical behavior in Second Life. You can find the people who are acting like creeps or whatever, but that you can find that in World of Warcraft, where they just don't have the tools to act it out on it. So it's just the internet for you. But my point is that, yes, I think that they are responsible for that. But Second Life, is probably a little bit, at least the creators of Second Life are probably a little bit at least thankful they're getting some kind of coverage. Because gosh knows that it's really hard as a kind of independent product to get coverage at all. And I should know this. I cover indie games, and I work for one as well. They don't want to cover indie games. They just, unless you're the indie of the moment, let's say like Gone Home, where they can say, hey, yeah, we cover indie games because we mentioned that one indie game. They don't like to cover independent products or products that are out of the norm unless they have controversy attached, because they're looking at numbers,
Are you talking about MMORPG.com you're writing for, or?
No, I'm writing for them now. I've written, but they're more, if you go to MMORPG.com, interesting thing is they've always had a lot of different types of coverage. They have the forums, the player, so they're in a really good position for coverage because they give it so many different points of view just because of the tools they have on the website. I wrote for Massively Able Gamers, Games.com, places like that. You weren't so obsessed. They weren't so obsessed with numbers. It was never like that. But you were definitely aware that if you wrote a story about the sex in Second Life or something like that, it would probably get you more hits than if you wrote a story about, let's say, the artists in Second Life. I mean, that's the internet for you.
But you were successful, and really kudos to you. I mean, you were successful, and I mean, I can count the people on one hand who have consistently tried to write up these other stories when it comes to Second Life. How was that for you? That's so fascinating. Was that a constant battle with your editors, or how can I sort of envision your pitching things and they go like, are there penises in there? And you go,
no, it was never that. Like Bree from Massively, the guys from Able Gamers, although I just volunteered for him. Everybody ever ran across in the industry from editors. This is another thing that was so funny about ethics journals. Stuff like that. Every editor I've ever come across, they just wanted you to do a good story. They didn't care if it got numbers or not. Now, if you consistently had nobody reading your stuff, yeah, there could be, you might want to tweak your writing a little bit. That's a website cannot survive on no readers. But no, it was never an argument. Just as a person, as a writer, I could see the difference. I mean, if you just count up the comments on certain articles, do you know what I mean? Like, I would get but all you have to do, I believe, as a member of the press and people who have, I know a lot of people who do it on a much larger scale. All you have to do is write about what you want to write about. Be very honest. Don't try to be fake. Find your voice, but make sure that it's your voice, not the voice you think other people want to hear. And people will end up kind of liking you, I think. And Second Life is a similar way. It's found its voice, but I wish it would probably just project some of the other parts, sometimes.
Maybe if every time we read a story that is actually positive about Second Life, or at least gives some attention to the other side of Second Life, maybe everyone in Second Life should comment on it and leave, and visit that article, so that the journalists suddenly realize that there is a market for that as well.
Well, what you hit on is yes. If a community the size of Second Life, let's say they have just 1,000 people. Let's say just 1,000. Now, we know they have a lot more, but let's say just 1,000 active players, right? Mm-hmm. If they went into an article and commented 1,000 comments on some mainstream sites, yes, they would be like, oh, this is interesting. But that's always been the case with anything. One of the reasons I've had some success with indie games is because I'll contact the indie developer, I'll often do interviews or whatever, and I'll say, hey, share this with your community, and then the community will often go to the comment section and say, we love the game because of this, this, and this, and then new players see that and say, hey, the community seems cool. But Second Life has always been kind of a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not snooty, but they don't like the outside world as much.
That's right. They are insular, and I completely respect that to some extent, because it is also a place where people kind of want to be left alone, at least, some sub cultures, and it's also fragmented. So the two things are compounded. People pound. Pound people. Pound people. Pound people. Pound people. Pound people. People. Pound people. Pound people. Pound people. Pound people. 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 Pound people. Pound people. Pound 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 people. People. Pound people. Pound people. Pound 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 people. People. Pound people. Pound 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 people. 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 Pound 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 people. People. Pound 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 people. Pound 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 people. Sound. 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 People. 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 Sound. People. Sound. People. Sound. Sound. People. People. Sound. People. Sound. People. Sound. Sound. People. 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 Sound. People. Sound. Sound. People. 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 Sound. Sound. People. People. Sound. Sound. People. People. Sound. People. People. Sound. People.